Did you think you could handle your taxes yourself this year and then found out that was a big fat lie? Go check out Molly Morris at M3 Virtual Accounting. She will assist you with filing for an extension for your taxes. She will get you set up for next year so that you don't have to scramble again. Just go and find out what she can offer you. I promise it will be worth your time. I wish so much that I had done it sooner. It's m3virtualaccounting.com for a free consult, and tell Molly that I sent you.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2, the co-host Switcheroo, the rereading Return to Westeros. And also to Marine. I keep saying Return to Westeros. We're not only in Westeros. There's other things happening. A lot, actually. Many people are traveling. In these chapters 50 and 51 of A Dance with Dragons. We visit Daenerys, who is still celebrating her wedding, while asking herself, why did I do this? Girl, we don't know. And then we visit Theon, who decides, for once in his godforsaken life, to do a good thing. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. Yeah, we're worldwide, baby. We're not just in Westeros.
We
we're all
are.
over the place.
Yeah. I don't know how I've been overlooking that for so long, but I really have. So Daenerys, let's get this bitch out of the way.
Yeah.
I have lost my patience with her. I don't remember being this irritated when I read the first time. I do feel like I remember Brendan being this irritated and me kind of being like, wow, why are you so mad? And now I'm like, nope, I'm right there with you. I get it.
This is really, really, really testing my patience. You know, it is. I mean, all of the characters in different ways are testing my patience, to be quite frank, right? But yeah. Daenerys, my girl, my good sis, what did you think it was going to be like?
Uh-huh.
You know, like this, I'm not saying that she's not entitled to feel as,
I am
upset as she is and disgusted with her own choices as she is, because I have sat, you know, in a room thinking about how I got in that room and just being like, that was just one fucking bad choice after another, and that's how you fucking got here, bitch. Right? To myself, about myself. Like, you don't just get to keep making bad choices and expect things to continue to work out for you. Like, the math is just not mathing in that way.
Yep.
But, I mean, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think it was going to feel like with all of these compromises that you decided to make, that you've been kind of pushed into a corner to make because you have decided certain things are not options? You know, you took your strongest pieces off the board and put them away because you didn't want to play with them anymore because they were dangerous and out of control.
Yep.
And now you find yourself in a position where you are forced to make these compromises, and she's like, there's slavers right outside my doors where I can see them. Where did you think they was going to be?
They're mocking me. Like, of course they're mocking you. You capitulated. What do you mean? I'm mocking you, and I'm on your side. How do you think they can resist? Let's be real.
Yeah, so this is just a whole day of her. Like, there's this giant party, big giant wedding feast. There's all these people that are like low/high key her enemies that are all dancing in front of her and eating her food and drinking her drink
Mm-hmm.
and reveling in their victory. This is a victory party for all of them, and she has to sit there and watch it. And then there's this whole sort of subplot thing with not really a subplot, but under like a B-roll story here in this chapter with Dario and how incensed he was and how he became like uncontrollable when it came to Martell, and she had to send him away because he was too dangerous to have around. And we got Ben Plum is here for the wedding. There's just a lot of. I mean, we do get dragons though, so
Ben
that was
Plum
nice.
being here cracks me up a little bit.
It's it's a little funny.
That is some balls that he had. He's just like, well, I told you that I'm going to do what I need to do to stay alive. I don't know why you're surprised by this. And she's like, yeah, you taught me a good lesson. I hope I get to repay that. And he's like, no, I'm good. You don't need to do that. I'm pretty sure I know what that's going to look like. So thanks, pass.
No, we're square
wine now.
You don't owe me anything. It's fine.
How generous. Thank you, Ben Plum.
But I do like her taking Quentin down to see the dragons. I did want to just mention that I did enjoy that for as ridiculous as the rest of this nonsense was.
Oh, the dragons. I feel so bad. Like, they just deserve better. They just deserve better. That's all there is to it. I mean, being locked up in the dark here. I hate it.
It's just such a weird thing for me that she's still doing this. Like I get all right, I'm trying to like go back multiple chapters to when the realization that her dragons were out killing children. I don't mean to hand wave that and be dismissive of it.
Sure.
However, as we have said plenty of times, and I'm sure book readers have screamed for a decade, the one thing you got going for you is the dragons, ma'am. That's your whole gimmick, is that you have dragons. And without them, no one is going to take you seriously. And as you can see, once they were out of the picture, there is no reason for anybody to really give a fuck what she wants, what she demands. Like all her, like it shouldn't be the case, but it is. Her power comes from her access to dragons. That's your whole thing. And sidelining them and believing that you are still going to move through the world and people were still going to treat you like you were a bitch with dragons when you are now a bitch that's dragonless. They're not going to treat you the same. So just, and that
she's dragonless.
That she doesn't want to face that in a real way and understand what that truly means for her. You know what I mean? Like that is, I don't know what to make of that. I don't know if I'm supposed to think that she is not smart enough to put two and two together. If she is, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to make of that. Her insistence that she can be the mother of dragons without no dragons. I don't know, y'all. I don't know what to make of it.
I think that it's meant to be kind of a metaphor for like, can you be a ruler without doing the hard, ugly things? And her having to like come to terms with the fact that if you want to command people, you are going to have to make some decisions that are like really awful on the face of them. And either you get right with that and accept that as part of the deal, or you accept the fact that you're not going to get to rule.
Right.
And she has not gotten right with that. She is just really like not facing that still. I think that's what he's trying to, because the dragons, it's like they are not inherently good or evil, but they are dangerous. That's part of their deal. That's part of what makes them intimidating and what makes other people give you the time of day. And the danger of them is that, yeah, they can eat kids. You know, they can be out of control at times. And like, that's part of being in charge as well, is you're going to have people that are under you that you have to trust with their actions representing you when you don't actually know what they're up to. You don't have ultimate control. They're going to be out of your sight doing their own thing sometimes. And that's just part of the reality. And I think that's something that she just struggles a lot with, because she wants to be able to do the best, rightest thing at all times. And that's simply not realistic.
Right. I hate the expression of like being oh, you're afraid to get your hands dirty. Like, I'm not a big fan of that expression and when it's used oftentimes, but I think this is an occasion where that kind of, like, the idea that you can rule and not get your hands dirty, that there's an ethical way to rule people. And that's the thing. Like, if you think that you are deserving to rule, it's an inherently unethical, I believe, to think that you are somehow like above others to the point where you get to rule them. I don't mean govern them, you know, or represent them. I mean like rule them as like a godhead figure, you know, as a king.
Yes.
And the idea that you can occupy that space and that role and still somehow hold a moral high ground, I don't think you can do that.
Agree.
And yeah, I agree with you. She is definitely struggling to find some sort of space she can occupy where she's in charge and has the right to rule, as nothing other than the fact that she was born is her claim, right? I'm a Targaryen. I am the heir to the throne. That makes that gives me the right to rule other people, which is just a bunch of bunk, really. But that's, you know, how this is all set up. If you believe that you get to be the boss of people simply because of your name or your bloodline, your hands are already dirty.
That's true. That's a good point. I like that. I like you pointing that out. Monarchy is fake. Like, can we all agree? Yes. So, all right, let's get into this. So, literally, like, one of the first sentences, I hate this. How did this happen? That I'm drinking and smiling with men I'd sooner flay.
Damn, you agreed to
girl.
It. That's how it happened.
You
said yes. It's a dress.
Oh my God, she did sing us to the dress.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, it's just all like circumstantial. You had a man from Westeros with an army and an ancient, what's the word I want? Like agreement, but more serious, more official.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm talking? I can't think of the word I want. But like, he showed up at your door the day before you got married, and you just ignored that. What do you mean? What do you mean? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I'm so irritated. And then this piece, this is what I wanted, what I worked for. This is why I married his daughter. So why does it taste so much like defeat? It's not peace. That's why. They're selling slaves. Mm-hmm. Right there. They're doing it. That's not peace. How do you even mean that this is peace? Why did you ever think that?
Yeah. And they put her in a position of having to choose between this sort of fake peace to keep the slaughter from happening, but in turn, you're sacrificing the freedom of countless people. So you're right. This isn't a true peace at all. This is a what is the did you learn in history in like junior high? Is it the Missouri Compromise? You know what
I
I'm
don't
talking
know
about?
what you're talking about. No.
There's oh my God, I'm going to get like so much of this wrong and people are going to be screaming, so I don't even want to get into it. But briefly, as we were expanding and increasing in statehoods in this country, there became a conflict on what was going to be like slaveholding states and what wasn't going to be. And then we did like a famous compromise, and it's one of the states, I think starts with an M, but I forget which one it is. And that was what determined what future states would be slaveholding and which ones wouldn't be, as a way to like get the politicians in agreement so that the numbers would be like balanced or whatever. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because everything else I say is going to be wrong. But it's like that type of compromise that she's making here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's honestly really funny that she hadn't considered the fact that they would just open up as like right outside. They're basically doing not touching you, can't do anything, not touching you, can't do anything, you know? And like these people have all shown you what petty bitches they are from day one. Of course they're doing this.
Fucking entertainment is all slaves. It's all enslaved people entertaining at her wedding feast. Like, throwing it in her face doesn't even seem strong enough of an expression. they're like, they've got her whole face rubbed in it. Like, you know, like her head's down in the mud and they're squishing her face in it.
Yeah. When she tries to be like, oh, they're mocking me to my face. Haystar's like, oh, well, once they're gone, we'll make a fruit market, which I'm just like, first of all, shut up. But she immediately says, and when are they going to be gone? And that's the question. He's like, eventually, someday. Yunkai will trade in slaves. Marine will not. This is what we have agreed. Maybe a misunderstanding here. You won't trade in slaves, but you will allow all of the slave owners to reside in your city with their slaves. So what good does it do that you don't trade in them when you allow them to exist within your borders?
Listen.
It's a not in my backyard situation.
It is the thing where we talk about like how in like a lot of urban areas and metropolitan areas have very, very strict gun laws. But still have a lot of gun violence. And it's because once you leave, like Philadelphia has like a lot of very strict gun laws, but you cross out of the city limits into any of the surrounding areas and the laws are suddenly very lax. And then you're in the city and you're like, where are all these guns coming from? And see, it's proof that the gun laws don't work. Well, all you got to do is cross the fucking bridge and go into another township, and it's a whole different fucking set of rules. What are you talking about?
Well, yeah, that's like, so then they don't work. No, you just make it so that it's harder everywhere, guys. It's really not. It's not that deep. But okay, fine. So it's much of the talk around the table was of the matches to be fought upon the morrow. Barcena Blackhair was going to face a boar, his tusks against her dagger. Kraz was fighting, as was the Spotted Cat, and in the day's final pairing, Gogor the Giant would go against Belliquo Bonebreaker. One would be dead before the sun went down. No queen has clean hands, Dany told herself. Better a few should die in the pit than thousands at the gates. This is the price of peace. I pay it willingly. If I look back, I am lost.
Listen.
If no queen has clean hands, where are your dragons?
What are you doing? And then
how about that?
the next fucking chapter, like paragraph rather, I'm sorry, blew my mind. She is looking around her at the people who are there, and she is unimpressed with the Supreme Commander and the other lords from Yunkai. She is just like, these people are nothing. And she thinks to herself, how can I have been brought to this by creatures such as these? Like, these people are so beneath me and so weak, and like, I cannot believe they got the best of me. How did we get here? Ma'am, where are your dragons?
Where are they?
Where are they?
Where are they?
And I feel like the fact that this ends with her taking Martell down to see them again, I'm wondering if we're about to get her back with her dragons. Like, I don't know. I know I say this every episode as we get towards the end. Like, I'm never sure how many more chapters we have of people. But Daenerys, because we've been so heavily invested in her story and she pops up so frequently, I feel like I'm going to get some more Daenerys chapters. I'm not really concerned with her story ending in this chapter. So unlike getting like a Jaime chapter where I'm just like, well, who knows if I'm going to see that motherfucker again? I feel like I'm going to see Daenerys again, right? So I'm wondering if all of this consternation, all of this sort of disgust she's feeling and really feeling like she made the wrong choice and thought she could eat this, and she's realizing she can't eat it at all. Like, she overestimated what she was willing to tolerate. Maybe she is getting pushed to a brink of some kind, and in an upcoming chapter we're going to have her being sort of reunited with her dragons in some fashion, though I don't know exactly what that's going to look like unless the show was right and she's just going to hop on one and fly the fuck away. Which would be really, really funny if that actually happens in the book, because I have been so certain that that is a show invention that I don't expect to see that happening. But the whole mood of this chapter, she seems so like frustrated. I'm like, well, maybe she does just fucking get on one of these motherfuckers and fly away.
I couldn't, the Austin's Info Corner, woo! The first sentence is, I am a big Dany supporter, and even I am sick of her chapters at this point. Oh
my God. Not Austin. Not Austin. I'm shook for real now. Wow.
Oh God, that's so funny to me. I don't know why.
Oh, wow. That is devastating coming from him. Like, if I was a Daenerys chapter, like if a Daenerys chapter was like sentient, I would be like, I will never recover from that.
That's a human insult. You're devastated right now. I just, for me, don't understand why she keeps phrasing it as like, if I look back, I am lost, because there is nothing wrong with being like, you know what? I fucked up. Let me just go ahead and undo this, you know, like, and she is acting as if that's like her dwelling on the past. And it's like, admitting you fucked up isn't dwelling on the past, because that's affecting the present. So that's very much a present thing. It's fine.
And giving you the opportunity to change the future. You know, giving you an opportunity to do something differently and maybe get a different result. But she's just feeling this chapter of hers. I mean, it's frustrating to read, but it really is. She's feeling very, very cornered and trapped. Like, her back has been pushed against a wall, and it's frustrating because the entire time she's just like, "How did I get here? How did I get here?" But we all watched you walk here. Like, what do you mean?
We watched every step.
You know,
we watched you have like more than one opportunity to do a different thing. Somebody literally showed up at your doorstep with a different option. You have an advisor that you claim to trust who keeps bringing that person up as an option. And you just keep making the most feeble fucking arguments why that's not an option. I don't want to hear it anymore. Enough. Well, all right. Ugh. So then the second sons were represented too. If Dario were here, this meal would end in blood. And she later on is just like, I shouldn't have even fucked him. No shit, you shouldn't have fucked him. You know what? I'm not even going to say that. You could go ahead and fuck him, but you did more than fuck him. You put him in this position that he should not have been in your court and made yourself look like a fucking teenager, which you are, but you look like it. And that's not what we want. And that's embarrassing.
And now you had to send him away because he's out here wilding and doesn't listen to anybody, which we knew from the beginning that he wasn't going to be listening to anybody. I mean, he told us who he was when we first met him. And she just got like fucking blinded by the dick, which it happens to the best of us, you know.
It do.
You know, it really
blinded
does.
Blinded by the dick. Oh god! If only I knew more lyrics, I would really go to town with that. But I will not.
I would just say it's a shame that the second verse is so incomprehensible that we can't even make more jokes about it. And every year, I ask somebody what the next line is, and somebody answers me, and I can never ever remember. It's something about revved up deuces in the night, something like that. But yeah,
hold on. Blinded by the... I'm looking this up now because now I want to know. Blinded by the light lyrics. Revved up like a deuce, another runner in the night.
Ah, there it is. There it is.
All right. Well, I can't do anything with that. So I'll just leave it there.
You can't improve on that.
Oh, man. So let's see. Oh yeah, I'll leave my girls with you, her captain had said, handing her his sword belt and its gilded wantons. Keep them safe for me, beloved. We would not want them making bloody mischief among the Yunkai. He is he's so much. Crazy. The shave pate was absent as well. The first thing Hisdar had done upon being crowned was to remove him from command of the brazen beasts, replacing him with his own cousin, the plump and pasty Margaz Lorak. And she says, it is for the best. The Green Grace says there is blood between Lorak and Kandak, and the shave pate never made a secret of his disdain for my lord husband.
So now she's got the people in her court being sent away and replaced by people who are not loyal to her at all. This doesn't seem great.
It sure does not.
And she's over here talking about it's for the best. Is it? Are we sure it's for the best?
For
the
whom's best? Best for which? When Prince Quentin told Dario the other Westerosi had come over to the Stormcrows at the command of the Tattered Prince, only the intercession of Grey Worm and his Unsullied prevented Dario from killing them all. The false deserters had been imprisoned safely in the bowels of the pyramid, but Dario's rage continued to fester. He is such a liability, girl. Like, what you need to do is somehow neuter him. Obviously not literally, because that's like his only appeal for it. But get him to heal, send him away, or actually kill him. She will never do that. But he has to be taught a lesson about not acting up. Whip him. I don't know. What's something that would punish him?
She sent him
He's
to
like
be a
somebody
hostage.
I feel like who would take a whipping yeah, but that's just like, that's not punishment. Well, I don't know. Does she send him as a hostage?
Yes.
I thought she was saying he will be safer as a hostage about Quentin.
Well, she says that she sent, let's see, she says that she sent required hostages of her. She sent, let's see, Hisdar's sister, two of his cousins, a blood rider, her Admiral Grolio, an unsullied captain, and Dario Naharis. Yeah, she sent them.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. I was seeing down here because it was like she says he will be safer as a hostage right after like Dario almost killed Quentin.
Yeah, she says my captain
I was taking
was
that
not
pronoun as applying to. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
My captain was not made for peace. She says about Dario. His was war and woe. He is not meant for peace. And she needs to keep him out of her bed and out of her heart and out of her.
I did find that funny.
I did too. So yeah, they have the feast, and then there's entertainment. Again, all of them are pretty much I think all of the entertainers were slaves. That was part of the peace deal. So they're, again, shoving this shit right in her face immediately after the marriage. Like, the very first thing they do is run a parade of slaves on her, like, happiest day of her life, supposedly. Mm-hmm. And they agreed to that. So she agreed to that. Ma'am.
Right?
Yeah.
I
and
know.
then they want to make a gift of the fucking boys choir.
She's like, well, I'm sure that they would rather have their nuts than be able to sing beautifully. Mm. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they would also. Can you just make this illegal and not let them in at all? Just whatever. Okay, I'm just beating a dead horse now. So she sees Brown Ben Plum, and he's like, you look good, but you always look good. I want no gifts from you. This one you might. The head of an old foe. Your own? She said sweetly. You betrayed me. Now, that's a harsh way of putting it, if you don't mind me saying. We went over to the winning side is all. Honestly, I found that hilarious. Just being like, betrayal? No, it's not about that. We just don't want to die.
I also love that he's like, it wasn't just me. It was the men. Mm-hmm. The men also voted, so you don't be mad at me. They voted.
And I thought it was interesting when he says, like, the head of an old foe. If he had gotten Tyrion at that, what do you call it when they bid? Auction. If he had won, would he have just killed him right away? I mean, he makes it sound like I'd just kill him and give you his head. And I'm like,
that's exactly what it sounds like.
Right?
I mean,
I was like sort of low-key rooting for him to get Tyrion. And now I'm like, ooh, I guess I misjudged that.
He might have meant that he would have presented Tyrion to her and let her decide to take his head. But, that's really reading a lot into one little line. Because this sounds like he just would have showed up with a head in a bag. But I think it would have been a little bit more ceremonial, and he would have shown up with Tyrion and presented Tyrion to her and been like, do with him, like, would you like his head? I'll give you his head right now if you command it, People are very big on the posturing.
True.
And so I don't think that, I think also it would have been a little, what is the word? Presumptuous of him to take Tyrion's head and kill him and not give her the opportunity to make that decision. As queen, she's the one who says live or die, not you. You don't get to make that call. Kind of, is how I'm kind of figuring it would have played out.
Right.
I love too that she asked him, did I ever treat you? Your men voted. Did I cheat them on their pay, or what the fuck? What is the problem they have with me?
Yeah, that was funny. Just like, we don't need to, I'd like to iron out how you were on set. Can we do an exit interview? Just that way in the future, I can make sure that people don't betray me utterly. And he tells her this story about, it's like one of those where I'm just like, get to the point, dude. But it's basically, I found a dead man who had all this gold on his person, but he was still dead. And what good was it? And that taught me that gold is great, but staying alive is the top most important thing. And she says, well, you said that was a lot, like enough to live like a lord. What happened to it? And he's like, I was a fucking kid who was an idiot, and I told a friend who went and told everybody, and it got taken away from me. I did get to keep the jerkin, so I guess that's fine. So Dany turned to gaze out sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to mention one of the things that's important about why his he keeps calling them his boys, why they voted was because he says, I told you, that you can't basically trust sellswords. And he says, my boys didn't care to die. And when I told them that you couldn't unleash the dragons, that was a wrap. So it's right fucking there. Like once they realized that you didn't have the power behind you that they thought you had, or you were unwilling to use that power, that's what they thought they were following. When they realized that's not what they were following, they were like, well, fuck this. And again, like, ma'am, what did you think was going to happen when people begin to really understand that your whole source of power is unavailable to you right now? And unavailable because of your own decisions, Yeah,
it's not even like it's been taken out of your hands. You are choosing not to use them. Mm-hmm. So they're baffling, truly baffling.
Mm-hmm. And she thinks to herself, you saw me as defeated, and who am I to say that you were wrong? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You earlier said, why does it taste so much like defeat? It tastes like that because that's what it is. And everybody seems to be aware of that, but you, babe.
Mm-hmm.
So then Sir Barristan comes in.
Who's heard?
And the whole thing. Is there some man in the Second Sons who might be persuaded to remove Brown Ben? Girl, talk about treating the symptoms and not the problem. Like... Mm-hmm. And as Dario Naharis once removed the other captains of the Stormcrows, the old knight looked uncomfortable. Perhaps I would not know, your grace. I do really enjoy that, just being like, oh, you mean like that had happened that one time already and still in this position? You could just keep killing the fucking captains. I think that's like actually kind of a chilling moment that is the solution she goes to, not understanding that it's her actions causing him to do what he did. It's giving Cersei, and I am not a fan. Just really completely disconnected here.
Her short-sightedness in this whole situation is really I don't want to say baffling because well, no, it is a little baffling. But I guess I expect more from her because of what she's been through already up to this point. I expect her to have a better handle on what's happening around her. And I guess maybe this is unjustified, but I expect her to be better at reading people and reading situations. And I might not be having that expectation based on anything in reality. But this just feels so like you, after everything you've been through and managed to get out of, you have found yourself in this situation and you just seem so unaware, and like terminally 2 steps behind. It just seems like suddenly everybody around her is smarter than her and making wiser choices than her. And that's why that moment when she's at the feast and she's looking around and she's like, how did I let these people beat me? That's a good fucking question. Like how did you? How did you? Like, it's like she just got here and just completely lost her good judgment. And everything from her relationship to Dario to not heeding the advice of Selmy, you know what I mean? Just like not picking Quentin up on his offer, just making weird fucking choices that I would expect her to make better decisions.
Yeah, it feels like the fact that she is this is I'm going to preface this, utter nonsense. I know that. I'm just saying how it feels. Putting her dragons away has addled her brains. You know what I'm saying? It feels like something about that connection being fucked with has just ruined her judgment overall.
it's as fucking a good enough explanation than anything else that we get. So I will allow it because she's not making any fucking sense. And I like, if we want to lean into the magic of it all, I like the idea of the suggestion that by severing the connection to her dragon, she severed a connection to her inner power, you know, her own just like her own she's disconnected from herself and is unable to not only command the respect that she commanded when she was actively like walking around with dragons on her shoulders, but also like the trust in herself that she's making good decisions and that her judgment is correct and that she's reading the situation properly. And she just, you know, she keeps saying if she looks at it back, she's lost, but like you're lost now.
Right. Yes. Yep. There it is. That's the one. That's how I feel about it. So then she has this conversation with Barristan about what to do with the prisoners that they have. And she suggests freeing Pretty Maris. Send her back as a gesture of my regard. If the captain is a clever man, he will understand. Because she's trying to be like, let me reach out to, I can't remember, is it the Windblown, right? And he says, the woman is the worst of all the better. We should sound out the Longlances too, and the company of the cat. Bloodbeard. Sir Barristan's frown deepened. If it please your grace, we want no part of him. Your grace is too young to remember the Ninepenny Kings, but this Bloodbeard is cut from the same savage cloth. There is no honor in him, only hunger for gold, for glory, for blood. And she actually takes his advice here. I wish you would take all of his advice. And she says they will turn on us at the first sign of weakness. And I'm just like, man, girl, again, it is just too late for that.
They've already turned on you. You've already shown weakness. What do you think is happening right now? What do you think this is? And he says to her, well, the Yunkai are growing weaker as well because the Flux has now moved into their cities. And this makes Daenerys start thinking about Quaithe and just being like, oh, she told me of the prince. She told me about the pale mare and the sun's son, but they were all fucking riddles. And she says out loud, I can't rely on a plague to save me from my enemies. Set Pretty Maris free at once. And he starts, I suppose. I mean, I guess, girl, I guess. He's like, and so me once again is just like, hey, you know, there's another option, and she has the nerve to be like, oh, yes, the Dornish. Oh, why are we bringing up this old news?
I just really want to know, the fuck did the Dornish do to you, girl, that you have this response? Like, listen, why? Quentin, it feels like abnormal.
Quentin is not hot enough. That's all.
He's not hot. He is just that, huh?
Yep. That's it. That's all it is. She saw him and she was just like, I would never. I simply would never.
Oh God, I shouldn't laugh because that is probably correct, but it feels so ridiculous.
Yeah, but he's out telling her, like you were talking about before, like the long history that they have as being loyal to House Targaryen for 100 years. And he's like, I even had the honor of serving with Quentin's great uncle. Prince Lewin was valiant. His Quentin Martell is of the same blood. Like, if you would just stop and think about it for a second. And she says, well, if he had showed up with all the fucking swords he's talking about, maybe I would have given him some consideration. But instead, he only brings 2 knights and a letter. So what you're telling me, lady, is that you expected them to march into Marine with 50,000 people, and then what?
And then turn around and go back to Westeros with all of them?
Yes.
Does that sound like it makes fucking sense to you?
They were all going to show up, bend the knee to her because that's part of the deal, right? And then like agree to get married, and then turn around and travel all the way back because you need to see it.
Because. Yeah.
And Tommy is like, because she's also like, he should have shown up with a fleet, and he's like, they're not sea people, ma'am.
Yeah. And you know that.
To please this prince, I would need to abandon all my people. That's where she is. But you have abandoned all your people. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I think this is when she goes to see Quentin and takes him downstairs to see the dragons. And there's a little bit of conversation between the two of them, but not really. The whole thing is him getting to see them like in person up front, and the sort of like awe-inspiring nature of this interaction. She also is telling him that he should probably go home because it's not safe for him at her court.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I'm good. I got my sworn shield. I'm straight. And she's just like, yeah, you got 2 knights. My Dario has 500 Stormcrows, and you probably should be worried about my husband too, because he doesn't seem super happy that there's another suitor here. And yeah, he might seem nice and chill, but he's not. And Quentin is just, his name is Quentin, right? He's just like, I'm not going to run away from slaves and sell swords.
I guess that's your funeral.
I guess, right? Like, she's clearly not in a position to do anything to intervene to save him if something were to like start to go down. You talked about neutering Dario earlier, but like low key, she's the one. She's been fucking.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's what is the fucking
spade?
Yeah, I was trying to think of something like that.
It doesn't have the same ring to it. I have to admit,
not.
But what can you do? So, and we also find out here that like the deal with the dragons is that each one only gets 1 rider ever. So that's confirmed. And let's see. He says, I had heard that there were 3 because she only has Viserion and Rhaegal here. And there's a mention that like the bricks that are, this place is built from are breaking and falling apart. So shit is clearly quite temporary at this point. We're going to have to come up with an alternative.
Yeah, like how much longer can we keep these motherfuckers down here? And she starts wondering if they can just fucking tunnel through rock like fireworms. And she's just like, I really hope that's not a thing that they can do. Which, I'm in agreement with. I hope that is not a thing that they can do because nobody wants that.
Yeah. But yeah, she says that Drogon is hunting. He did not need to hear the rest. And I keep forgetting that Drogon is still out there. And you know what? That really like kind of underscores my assessment about her wits having departed for now. Drogon has them. He left and took them with him. And as soon as she begins to sort of see the fucking writing on the wall, he will come back and give her wits back.
No, let's hope. Let's hope. Let's hope he's just out there somewhere waiting for her to get so fucking frustrated that he can feel, okay, she's ready now. All right.
Mm-hmm.
She's had about as much as she can take. She's ready for some fucking fire and blood. Let me go head home. Because, I like to believe in the connection that she has with them, especially with Drogon in particular. So, yeah. And as soon as he comes back home, we're going to settle all this shit. We're going to get all this right. All you got to do is come home. And all this sorted.
And he says, he like kind of jumps at one point when I think Rhaegal breathes fire. Maybe it's Viserion. And she says, they frighten me as well. There's no shame in that. My children have grown wild and angry in the dark. So, yeah, it's definitely given like, you're repressing shit. And the more you repress it, the worse it's going to get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like that too.
And he says, they are fearsome creatures. They are dragons, Quentin. Dany stood on her toes and kissed him lightly, once on each cheek. And so am I. Are you?
Yeah, not right now. Maybe you're remembering. Maybe it's coming back to you from being down here, because it feels like she hasn't been down here in a while. And then, bless his heart, he says to her when she says, and so am I, he goes, oh, I have the blood of the dragon in me too.
Me too. Me too. Oh, baby.
But he's like, I can trace my lineage back to the first Daenerys. And she's just like, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to hear a little bit more about her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand the impulse, sir, but I'm just going to have to advise against it. Don't try and insert yourself into this. It's just not good for you right now. Don't do it. She, for herself, thinks like he doesn't belong here. He should never have come. And she tells him, you ought to return. You have more enemies than you know. You would do well to be aware of my lord husband too. And when he says, I'm not afraid, she's like, well, then you truly are a fool. And I'm like, once again, you are here too, Dany. Mm-hmm. And you are surrounded by, like, you just really think being queen is going to keep you safe. Why? Why do you think that? Mm-hmm. He could get rid of you at any time and nobody would blink an eye. Nothing would happen to him. It doesn't matter. Like, he sought to become king and have power beyond yours, and you let him. You let him.
Yep.
And that's the end of the fucking story. Like,
and as long as you stay married to him, that balance of power is never going to shift. Like, you're not going to get it back there. You're not going to suddenly wake up one day with the upper hand unless you lose them dragons. That's it. That's the only card you have up your sleeve. And for reasons, she's not willing to play it. But I really do feel like she's inching towards something. I'll tell you what I was shocked by, y'all. And this is because I'm such a innocent, pure cinnamon bun. She ends up fucking her husband. And I thought for sure this was an understanding that they would not be having the sex. Like that this was a marriage of political reasons, and maybe they would try for a baby under like later as they negotiated. But he comes back from the feast drunk into his honeymoon suite, expecting to get some, and I, for one, was outraged. I don't know why, but I was shocked by that.
Yeah, I did not remember that they actually had sex. And it really, like, more shocking than anything to me is that later on, when she's still awake, she's like, she wanted to wake him and make him hold her and kiss her and fuck her again. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, right? Like, I was so taken aback by that I was like, is that really just supposed to tell me how awful she's feeling being alone and awake in the dark, and that she would take literally any distraction to offer to her. Because she can't just be like really like just wanting him that badly because that it was that pleasurable. So this is just an example of how awful it is to be alone and awake in the dark, that she would be like, I'd rather this motherfucker be fucking me than just sitting in the darkness alone in the silence. And that must be it. Like, if it's that bad that you're just like, oh, I wish you would wake up and fuck me again. I need you to take an Ambien or something.
Dick is the purest Ambien there is.
Good dick is.
True enough. True enough.
I mean, if it was good dick, she'd be asleep too. But she's still awake.
That's true. Oh, God, that makes me think of that Louis C.K. bit, which, you know, he's a bad man, but that line is really good of just like, she wants to cuddle afterwards. Yeah, because her pussy is on fire. You did nothing for her. Oh, she's so clingy. She's horny. She's horny.
Oh, he was so good when he was good.
He was shame. Once upon a time.
Yeah, what a shame. What year did he die? It was like 2017. R.I.P. Louis C.K.
R.I.P. She wondered what Dario was doing. Was he thinking about her? Did he love her? Did he hate her for marrying his star? Whatever.
Yeah, I guess.
So Miss Sandy comes in and is like, I heard you crying. And she's like, I wasn't crying. What? Sandy's like, all right, that's fine. And then she says, don't leave. And Miss Sandy's like, okay, but your husband's right there. You're not alone. And she's like, yeah, but he is asleep. That's not the same thing. Why don't you come in here and tell me about Noth, where you're from, and about the things that make you happy and your sweetest memories. Remind me that there is still good in the world. Miss Sandy did her best. She was still talking when Danny finally fell to sleep to dream queer, half-formed dreams of smoke and fire. The morning came too soon.
When his star comes into the room, he's like, let's make a baby. And she's just like, okay. Okay, well, yeah, let's do that then.
She hasn't told him that she can't have babies.
Nope.
And honestly, I can't help but be like, yeah, don't tell him. He doesn't need to.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's no need. I mean, there's probably a need, but she probably shouldn't tell him.
All right, so the next chapter is actually called Theon.
Yeah.
Not Reek, not the Ghost of Winterfell, not the Prince of Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
It's Theon.
It's Theon. Yeah. I had to check myself for a second when I saw it, and I was just like, wait a minute. Theon? Mm-hmm. We haven't had a Theon chapter in a little while now. I was like, oh, okay, what are we about to do? And then what we about to do is try to escape. That's what we about to do.
Yeah. What did you think about like how this chapter goes overall? Were you surprised by this turn of events? Or?
I was. Again, show at this point is not like, faithful to the book, but there are some elements that remain the same. And, I was trying to like pinpoint like how it went in the show and just failed miserably. Literally the only thing I can remember about the escape from Winterfell is him and Sansa jumping off the wall together into the snowdrift. I couldn't remember anything that led up to that, so I have no idea how it goes. I can't remember, but no, this was a very, very tense chapter. The way this plan is going, I wasn't sure. Like I should have been because the chapter title was Theon, but I kept waiting for him to like chicken out, like any second now, he's going to like lose his courage. He's going to lose his courage, and he's going to slink away. Or give them up or whatever. Like it was very, very harrowing to read.
Yeah, the way. You know what? I'm gonna wait. We'll get there in a second. Okay, so first of all, It says, days stole upon them just as Stannis had, unseen.
Mm-hmm.
Winterfell had been awake for hours, its battlements and towers crammed with men in wool and mail and leather awaiting an attack that never came. By the time the sky began to lighten, the sound of drums had faded away, though war horns were heard thrice more, each time a little closer, and still the snow fell. So I had forgotten that the last chapter ends with being able to hear that horn and just sort of being like, all right, what's going on? And evidently Stannis is here, but they like fuck all is happening about it. And then we have the next body turn up. And I really enjoy that the way this starts is like Ramsay, Theon is always just so aware of the mood that Ramsay is in, which is just such a good way to depict somebody who has undergone the kind of horrific treatment that Theon has, because that's what happens is you begin to try and anticipate and avoid if you can.
Yep.
One wrong word, an ill-considered look, an ill-timed laugh, any of them could provoke his lordship's wrath and cost a man a strip of skin. Please, my lord, don't look this way. One glance would be all it would take for Ramsay to know everything. He'll see it written on my face. He'll know. He always knows. I am so curious about whether that's true. I do not want to test this theory at all. Don't get me wrong.
I love that the fact that Theon is so convinced that that's true is another example of what Ramsay has been able to do to Theon, to convince him that somehow he is omnipotent, that he knows everything, and he always knows everything. So there's no sense in even trying to lie. There's no sense in even trying to hide. Almost like it's supernatural, you know? That's just how shook Theon is, how broken he is, and how tortured he's been. That Ramsay exists on almost a superhuman level in Theon's imagination, that he would be able to just take one look at his face and know the whole plan, and the whole entire endeavor would be up, you know, by just a glance. Because I think that's really what it feels wonder. Like.
Yeah, like it definitely does to him. And I'm like, so what I feel like has happened is that Ramsay has convinced him of this so completely that Theon gives himself away and doesn't realize that's what he's doing, and attributes it to Ramsay reading his mind, right?
That's how
like
that
he's just got some kind of tell.
And people like Ramsay are, you know, abusers are also very, very good at picking their victims and then knowing their victims and being like very clued in and tuned into the smallest gestures and movement and ways things are said, you know, and to, like you said, like tells, you know, they know their victims inside and out, to where it can almost feel like they really can read their mind, you know. It's and then when you have an abuser in a victim situation like that, and they become like really enmeshed being enmeshed is toxic just kind of on its own, but like in these like really extreme circumstances, it really can feel like there's a supernatural connection, that he really can read my mind. He can see what I'm thinking, because that's just how tuned in Ramsay is into Reek. Okay, I guess maybe I shouldn't call that part of Theon. You know, Theon, the thing that Ramsay created is such a separate thing from Theon. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but you had shown me some fan art of a Ramsay Reek ship.
Yeah.
Did not care for it at all.
Yeah.
At all.
You guys, it's like so gross. It's like falls into the same category as me, as like John and Satin shippers. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. No, ew. Like, and it's an illustration that's like made Theon both Ramsay's meant to be like ugly straight up. And of course he isn't. And Theon is meant to be like emaciated and disgusting. And of course he isn't. They're both just super hot. And it's just like a Dom thing. That's not who they are. And that's not the Stop it. Stop. Okay, fine. Go ahead and do what you want. Whatever. But it's just, I find it very uncomfortable. Same thing.
Yeah. It's like low-key insulting to like an actual like true Dom relationship, right? Which is built on like trust and respect. This is not what Ramsay and Reek have. Yes. So yeah, that's a whole no, it's no good. Stop it right now. That's what I say.
So he tells Abel, like, as soon as he has this feeling of he's going to know, he's like, this isn't going to work. We're going to get caught. And Abel is like, no, we don't. All we need to do is reach Stannis. He's right there. If he comes after us, they'll cut him up. And Theon's like, if you want to believe that, Ramsay will use your women as his prey. He'll hunt them down, rape them, and feed their corpses to his dogs. And you swore you wouldn't let me fall into his hands again. Abel's word, said Squirrel, strong as oak. Abel himself only shrugged. No matter what, my prince. Which I felt was, I will kill you myself. Right? Is that what he's saying? Because that felt like what he was saying to me.
Yeah, like no matter what happens, you don't end back up with Ramsay. I'll fucking kill you. Yeah. I think that is a correct read. And I think that Theon would rather that be the case. I think he actually says it at some point that he'd rather just fucking be killed than end up back in the hands of Ramsay, who was like furious because you tried to run away. Dead is better. Better dead than Reek, he says, even if Abel's scheme went awry. And he's thinking about all the repercussions if he gets caught trying to do this, and they are all awful. But we find out that, and I think I had a question about this on the last episode or the last Theon chapter. I can't remember if I said it out loud, if we talked about it, but Theon does not tell Abel that this is not Arya. He lets him continue to believe that they are really rescuing Jon Snow's little sister. And I can't remember what Theon says or thinks to himself about not telling. It just says that he came really close to telling the truth when he had been taken to see Abel. But at the last instant, he had held his tongue. Says the singer, because he's afraid if he finds out it's not really Arya, then he won't want to escape. That's why he doesn't tell. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you know what? When you got to do the math in your head like that, yeah, I can see why.
I agree with him that probably he would drop it. Like, I may be wrong. It may be that he would be like, well, you know what? No matter who she is, nobody deserves to be treated this way. But I don't know. To me, there's a risk he's taking here that I don't know that he would still take.
Exactly. He's not here just to save a random person from the horrors of being married to Ramsay Bolton. That's not what he's doing here. He's here on a very specific mission. And there's no indication that Abel really gives a fuck either way about how this girl is being treated, or about how Ramsay treats anybody, or about how Ramsay even treats Reek. You know, he doesn't really, like, he's not wearing a cape. You know what I mean? He's not here, he's here to do a very specific task, and that's it. He's not here, saving the day. So yeah, I think Theon made the right call.
Yeah, agree.
Though it does beg the question, how does that get explained? Say they get away. Say they make it all of them back to the wall, which I don't know if that's really what happens, but say they do. And then Theon has to look Jon Snow in the face because Jon's going to be like, fuck, you know good and well that this is not her. And Jon's going to be like, funny emoji.
Oh, that's funny. So this is when somebody comes in carrying a new body, and it's a Frey, and it is Little Walder.
Mm-hmm.
He's the big one.
I love that because it's just such a fucking. I think it's across cultures. I know it's something that Black people do. I feel like other cultures do it as well, where you do like the opposite, where you call like a really big guy tiny. You know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You call a bald guy curly. Yeah. And he was 9 years old, this kid that was killed.
Yeah,
I will confess, though, that he was like kind of a shit, if I remember correctly.
Was! This is why
a part of me is like,
well. In my imagination,
Manderley says, mayhap this was a blessing. Had he lived, he would have grown up to be a Frank. He just says that out loud to their faces. Wyman Manderley is like a fucking goat for me. Mm-hmm. This is so, between like literally eating his enemies, if that is indeed what happened, and I think it is, and then just being like, he would have grown up to be one of your pathetic asses. I mean, about a child, like horrifying, grotesque, but also I love it so much. I can't help myself.
It is a fantastic moment. It is just like the fucking balls to just say that shit right out loud in front of everybody while you're eating, like completely unconcerned for your own well-being because you're that certain that they're not going to fucking touch you. But then they do. They touch him real quick too.
They do. Yeah.
Fucking Hostine like flips over that table and goes for his neck, like literally with his sword, goes for his fucking head.
Yeah.
I thought he was dead. I thought Wyman was dead, and it turns out he's not, or at least not yet.
Nope.
But I thought for sure his head went flying to the other side of that room.
He collapses when he tries to get up, but yeah, he's still alive. It's the description of this. Old Lord Locke was shouting for a maester as Manderley flopped on the floor like a clubbed walrus in a spreading pool of blood. Around him, dogs fought over sausages. The sausages get mentioned so many times, and I, for one, enjoy it. And I think Manderley low-key deserved this. As much as I love him, I can't be mad that somebody was like, this 9-year-old child has been murdered horrifically and left in the snow to die, and you're making a joke about it. So as long as he's not dead, I'm just sort of like, well, you did open your mouth. Oh, that's what it's going to take, like maybe just walk a little bit more quietly. It took 2 more Dreadfort spearmen to part the combatants and put an end to the carnage. By that time, 6 White Harbor men and 2 Freys lay dead upon the floor. That's way too many White Harbor men. I don't like it. That's out of proportion.
Only 2 Freys. That's not great.
Yeah. A dozen more were wounded, and one of the bastard boys, Luton, was dying noisily, crying for his mother as he tried to shove a fistful of slimy entrails back through a gaping belly wound. Yeah. And Ramsay just kills him.
It's just like, hush all that noise up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure maybe he was maybe it was mercy, but I feel like it was more like, just shut all that fucking noise up. Fucking, you got yourself mortally wounded, you piece of shit, worthless. Like, I just picture Ramsay being disgusted that this guy got caught up in this and actually had the nerve to take like a fucking, he gets murdered over some shit that he didn't even have anything to do with. Like, I feel like Ramsay is just watching from the side like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, you idiot.
I want to read you something here that I thought was interesting, and I hadn't heard this theory before. I'm reading it to you because it isn't confirmed as far as I know. So it's just like a fan theory. Little Walder Frey is found dead, but the Spearwives say that they had nothing to do with this one. The theory a lot of the fandom has picked up on is that he was killed by his cousin, Big Walder, who was increasingly disturbed by how much little Walder was becoming like Ramsay, or maybe even killed him in self-defense. Note how Big Walder is described as having gloves caked in his cousin's blood. But little Walder's blood was frozen when they found him from being out in the cold. I like it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't, to tell you the truth, I can't remember enough about Little Walder to have like an opinion on whether I think that he would, or Big Walder rather. He's little in stature, but he's called Big Walder. That one,
Right.
I don't remember enough about him to be like, oh yeah, that seems like something that would be right. Like, maybe he would have been dismayed at how his cousin was changing and the monster that he was changing into. Because if I remember, we did specifically get told that Little Walder was becoming a bit more of a sadist and like really enjoying following Ramsay around and like kind of getting along well. I remember that, but I can't remember what the cousin's reaction to that was, if there was any. But that's an interesting theory.
I just like the idea of anybody in this universe ensuring that there are fewer people like Ramsay around. Because we have got enough of them, frankly.
Fair enough.
Like it's grim out there, the number of sadists there are with just free reign to do whatever the fuck. And I would love to believe that there is a person who's just sort of like, you know what? I'm just going to put an end to this right now. Nah, we're not doing this,
I like it.
So yeah, that's I accept this theory and am grateful for it. Especially because I do kind of like also just think fewer Freys is better. And
Listen,
if you're going to be a Frey, then
I can support.
Right? If you're going to be a Frey that helps prevent there being more Freys. And then maybe I'll be on your side. So he's as good a Frey. It's like a cop that betrays other cops. Like, yes, you're the only good cop.
The Frey you want to see in the world.
Oh, God. So this is when Roose finally stands up, and it says that he got like a message. He says, rather than use our swords upon each other, you might try them on Lord Stannis. Lord Bolton unrolled the parchment. His host lies not 3 days' ride from here, snowbound and starving, and I, for one, am tired of waiting on his pleasure. Sir Hostine, assemble your knights and men-at-arms by the main gates. As you are so eager for battle, you shall strike our first blow. Lord Wyman, gather your White Harbor men by the east gate. They shall go forth as well. And Hostine Frey is just like, after I do that, though, I'm going to kill this guy. And there's just like kind of no real... nobody tells him like you're not going to do that.
No.
Nobody pushes back on it.
They let that shit sit right there. They just let it sit and move on to the next thing. We find out that, well, that's not entirely true because he says that, and then some White Harbor knights say something like, you got to come through us first. So there is a little pushback. So okay. So yeah, they don't let him just get away with. They don't just let him say that shit like it's nothing.
So at this point, the Spearwives are like, all right, so we better move on this now because they are getting moving and we've got to get to Stannis before all of then we have no chance. The point is getting to Stannis.
I love at this time, Roose is like, hey, singers, come sing us a song.
Oh my God. You made yourselves too enjoyable. That's the risk you take when you make yourself an invaluable employee. Then you get summoned.
Fucking a beer escape.
Sean knows.
Listen, don't do it, y'all. Don't do it. Don't be competent. It's not worth it.
You just get punished for it.
You
It's
just
really
get
true.
punished for it.
So there's a conversation here between Theon and Rowan. Again, she keeps denying that they did it. I believe that they didn't do it. Why would they lie about this one? It doesn't make any sense. And then she says something about how, like, you're a fucking kinslayer. And he's like, first of all, they weren't my brothers. And she's like, oh yeah, the Starks weren't your family. And he's like, okay, well, that's not what I meant, because they weren't even Starks. But it sort of ends with, she would never believe his denials any more than he believed hers. And I don't know why, but I just kind of liked that. Just the acknowledgement of, like, you know what? What's the point? She can say whatever she wants. I think she just did that shit. She clearly thinks I did this shit. All right, fine. Let me just leave it then.
Yeah.
And just sort of giving up on it.
I like what he says to her out loud is that, yeah, there's blood on my hands, but not the blood of brothers. And I've been punished. And she says, not enough. And then walks away from him, like turns her back on him. Yeah, she does not see it for him at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I really just am like, what, do you know what was done to him? Because I feel like you might. Mm-hmm.
You might think it was enough.
Got
more detail.
I don't know.
So, yeah, their plan is they're going to take a bath up to Jeyne, and then one of the spear wives is going to change places, and they're going to let Jeyne come out dressed like a handmaid or, whatever these women are called. And then later on, she will make her get away by climbing out the window or something, because she's like an expert climber, and this little tower doesn't present any kind of problem for her. And that is what they have to do. And the plan. It's not a bad plan. It's
really not.
It's the old switcheroo. It's the fucking bank heist. That movie. What is that movie?
Return to Westeros.
What the fuck is that Bill Murray movie when they rob the bank? You guys know what I'm talking about? I love that movie so much. It's so ridiculous.
I don't know.
It's Bill Murray, Gina Davis, and a Quaid. I want to say Randy Quaid. And they rob a bank. And the plan is they go in, they rob the bank, and then they pretend to be hostages. And when the police come to negotiate the release of hostages, they just come out of the, because they're in a disguise when they're robbing the bank. And then they just come out and they look like they're dressed like regular people, and nobody knows that they're the ones that robbed the bank. And
that's brilliant.
Right. And the heist goes off perfectly, but then it's a comedy. They can't get out of the city. They can't get out of New York. There's all these weird things that keep happening where all I need to do is get to the airport or whatever, and they just can't fucking make it. But the plan of robbing the bank is perfectly executed.
That's amazing. No, I don't know that movie.
I can't think of what it's called, but I used to fucking watch it all the time when I was in high school. I just thought it was the funniest fucking movie. Oh my God, we used to quote it all the time too. I don't know how it holds up. I haven't watched it in 20 years, but so this is what they're doing. They're going to go in and then swap out and then sneak her out right under the noses of all the guards, because no one is going to pay attention to these lowly washerwomen and give a fuck about them, and just let them go on about their business. And it's a little tense because they get to her room and there are two of Ramsay's bastard boys actually guarding the room. And they get a little spicy with reek, you know how they do. You stink, as the bash should be for you and all that jazz. But they do get her out and it works.
Yeah, he mentions that it's sort of great luck for them because they happen to be the two guys who are the least likely to be able to. One of them is sort of described as half-witted, and the other one is has no tongue. Right? So yeah,
yep. So when they open the door and actually see Jeyne, no, this is no good.
This was the thing that I was Because you were like, I just want to check in with her and see how she's doing. Like,
yeah, she's not doing great. She's not doing great. They come in and they call the ladies, the spear wives are like, Lady Arya, you have to come with us right now. We're going to take you to your brother. And Jeyne is like, I don't have any brothers. And Theon thinks, shit, she's forgotten who she is. She's forgotten her name. And he has to like jump in. He's like, yeah. You don't have any brothers, but you did.
They're all dead.
3, right? She's about to blow up the whole spot.
Yep.
And she is doing the thing that we'd seen Reek do and had seen him think multiple times, which is she's immediately like, this is a fucking trap. This is a trick. He's trying to trick me into leaving so that he can chase me and hurt me. Tell him that I would never leave. Tell him that I love him. Tell him that I'll do whatever he wants me to do. This is really disturbing. Tell him I'll do what he wants, whatever he wants, with him or with the dog, or please, he doesn't need to cut my feet off. I won't try to run away. Not ever. And I'll give him sons. I swear it. I'm sorry. You'll do what with what?
Yeah. That remains for me one of the most disturbing things in these books, period.
Yeah,
is
I can
just
see why.
That being said in this extremely vague way. We don't get any details. Thank you, George. Don't need them. That's plenty. And just letting that sit in our imagination, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we have Rowan, who is like this hard woman, you know, the spear wife, looking at Jeyne, listening to what she's saying, and she just goes, God's curse the man. Like she is like, this is some bullshit, is what she is like.
Yeah.
And Jeyne is continuing to cry, you know, that she's good and that she's trained now. And they have to get her quiet because, you know, people are outside the door. They can't have her like in there hysterical. Meanwhile, Theon is just like, we are fucked. This is it. I told him this was like a fucking mistake. They're all fucking half mad. In songs, the hero always saves the maiden from the monster's castle, but life is not a song. No more than Jeyne was Arya Stark. Her eyes are the wrong color, and there are no heroes here, only whores. But he's thinking all this, but he still kneels down to her and is like, I'm Theon. You know me, right? I know you too. You know your name. And she goes to say it, and he's like, shh, don't say anything. And he's like, you have to.
She's like, yeah, I know my name. I did. Nobody else needs to know it.
Right. I just was checking to see if you knew it. And now she's convinced. Now she's like, believes him. And she's like, oh my God, we're leaving. Yes, please take me. And they switch out the clothes and get her dressed and get her out of the room. And of course, the guys have something to say. You know, did you give her a good bath, a good wash? This is when if the man had touched Jeyne, she might have screamed. Then Holly would have opened his throat for him with a knife hidden up her sleeve. For a moment, Theon almost felt giddy. They never even looked. They never even saw. We walked the girl right out by them. For like a second, he's feeling like, oh shit, maybe this is going to work. This is going to work. And then all of a sudden, he gets right back into being terrified.
Yeah.
What if?
I really do like this. Just the constant back and forth. It just feels so real to me. Of just like, okay, shit. And it's almost like getting excited makes you scared. Like, oh, am I getting cocky now? Am I starting to believe something that isn't like, you know, am I falling for my own success? Because I think in the back of his mind, there's still almost like is this a trap? And I don't think he believes that, but the paranoia about what he's been set up for. Yeah. You know, how do you like rid yourself of that?
You can't really. not like I don't think without like intensive work, which he has not had the opportunity to do. So he's still like racked with all this legitimate fear. By the way, I don't want anybody to think that I am being like, you know, oh, he's overreacting. No, he's underreacting.
Yeah, right. The fact that he's doing this at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the like you said, the giddiness immediately followed by the oh shit. There's also, I think, a sequence that's like really effective where they just need to get the hot water to begin with, because the whole thing is I need multiple people to carry the buckets for her bath.
Yes.
And when they go to get the water, there's not like a clean kettle to boil it with. They have to wait for the pot boy to scrub a pot, and then they have to fill it, and waiting for it to boil takes forever. And the girls are like, the spearwives are in these hooded cloaks and just sort of waiting in silence. And he's like, they are doing this wrong. They are not flirting and joking around. Like, you know, the somebody whole thing is they're trying to not attract attention, but it's doing the opposite.
Yeah, that was actually really good. I'm glad you remembered to bring that up. Because somebody is just like, after a while of watching him, somebody's like, huh, where are the other girls at? The usual ones.
Yeah.
And Theon has to come up with like a story about like, oh, last time the water was cold by the time they got there. So Lady Arya is like insisted on having all new girls. Luckily for them, the guy is like, all right, I really didn't care that much to begin with.
Yeah. So then they get outside. This way, he said, when they came to a junction where 3 trenches crossed. Frenya, Holly, go with them, Rowan said. We'll be along with Abel. Do not wait for us. And with that, she whirled and plunged into the snow toward the Great Hall. Willow and Myrtle hurried after her, cloaks snapping in the wind. Madder and madder, thought Theon Greyjoy. Escape had seemed unlikely with all 6 of Abel's women. With only 2, it seemed impossible. But they had gone too far to return the girl to her bedchamber and pretend none of this had ever happened. Instead, he took Jeyne by the arm and drew her down the pathway to the battlement gate. Only a half gate, he reminded himself. Even if the guards let us pass, there's no way through to the outer wall. On other nights, the guards had allowed Theon through, but all those times he'd come alone. He would not pass so easily with 3 servant girls in tow. And if the guards looked beneath Jeyne's hood and recognized Lord Ramsay's bride... And then he just like doesn't even finish that thought. Mm-hmm. And I love this. Reek, is that you? Yes, he meant to say. Instead, he heard himself reply, Theon Greyjoy. And I want to know what made him say it in that moment. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, why? Why then? I'm not mad, but it's an interesting moment to decide you're going to say your name, you know?
Yeah. I feel like this is him committing to, like, there's no turning back. There's no turning back.
Yeah, maybe you're right. So Holly pretends to kiss this guy and slits his throat. The second guard was still gaping in confusion when Frenya grabbed the shaft of his spear. They struggled for a moment, tugging, till the woman wrenched the weapon from his fingers and clouted him across the temple with its butt. As he stumbled backward, she spun the spear around and drove its point through his belly with a grunt. I had thought that she was just going to knock him out, that she was like, I don't have to kill him. But she just goes ahead for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, we have to kill him. And then Jeyne starts to scream, and they are like, fuck us. We gotta go. Run. And Theon puts his hand over her mouth, over Jeyne's mouth, and grabs her by the waist and pulled her, and they just make a fucking run for it. And they get to their drawbridge, and Freya stops and is just like, go ahead. I'll keep I love it. She keeps calling everybody the kneelers. Like everybody is a kneeler.
So he has Jeyne just thrown over his shoulder at this point. And, he's, you know, everything is covered in snow and ice. So he's like slipping and sliding around and falls at one point. Which way? He shouted at Holly. Where do we go now? How do we get out? The fury on Holly's face turned to horror. Oh, fuck me bloody, the rope. She gave a hysterical laugh. Frenya has the rope. Then she grunted and grabbed at her stomach. A quarrel had sprouted from her gut. When she wrapped a hand around it, the blood leaked through her fingers. "Kneelers on the inner wall," she gasped, before a second shaft appeared between her breasts. Holly grabbed for the nearest merlon and fell. The snow that she'd knocked loose buried her with a soft thump. And this is when Theon has to be like, all right, I just gotta. Like, Stannis is the only thing that can help us at this point. A bolt passed within a foot of him, shattering the crust of frozen snow that had plugged the closest crenel. Of Abel, Rowan, Squirrel, and the others, there was no sign. He and the girl were alone. If they take us alive, they will deliver us to Ramsay. Theon grabbed Jeyne about the waist and jumped.
Yep. And then that is just how the chapter ends. And I was disgusted. I was like, God damn it. Damn it. So I was very certain that I'm going to get another Daenerys chapter. I don't know if I'm going to get any more from any other chapters of Theon. I'm very up in the air. I don't know. I can't call it. I can't call it because we haven't checked in with Bran in a minute, and I'm wondering if we're going to go back to him.
That's true.
If we're going to go back to Daenerys, which I feel pretty confident we will. I don't know. I don't know if we get another Theon chapter. I hope we do. I don't know. Like I'm trying to think story wise and what the show did, and trying to remember like how much more story is there that they may have taken from the books, if any. And I just cannot call it. I can't call it because I can't remember. When Theon and Sansa jump, I don't remember where they go. I don't remember what the story is. Like, I think they end up with... Is it Asha somehow they end up with his sister? I don't remember, guys. I don't remember what happens. I can see them jumping, and then it's like a fucking blank. I got nothing. Can't remember.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, for me, the fact that I don't remember really is kind of damning. Because it's a thrilling moment to just not remember what happens afterward. But
I have no memory of where they go. I guess they make it to the wall eventually, right? Because they're with Jon when Jon has the big battle with Ramsay eventually. Because Sansa calls Littlefinger and the Veil comes and helps whatever that big battle, the Battle of the Bastards, that's what it was called.
Yeah.
So I guess they do make it to the wall in the show. That's where they go. And then then they fight Ramsay, and I guess that's how they get Winterfell back. So, but again, it's a blank, like them getting to the wall, like how they get from Winterfell. I don't remember any of that.
We may not even see it. Like, it may be that they just jump to them arriving at the wall looking tattered and exhausted, and it's just like, you take for granted that they make, because they don't show the journey almost ever in that show.
Maybe that's why it's such a fucking hard stop, because maybe literally nothing else happened.
Yeah. Who knows? All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to say about these chapters in particular? Because
no,
we were at chapter, what was this? 51, this last one. And I'm looking at how many there are 71 chapters altogether and then an epilogue. So we've got about 20 left, which is about 10 more episodes. So not too much longer before we reach the end of this book. And I think I've mentioned before, you guys, but I had been wanting to cover the Duncan Egg books with Rashawn, but then they're going to be making the show, and I kind of thought it'd be fun for us to cover it without her having read them and only watching the show. But let me know what you think about that idea. I don't know how, like, at all how close we are to the show actually being produced and out, but we all are also going to be covering House of the Dragon, which will take up a significant amount of time, and there's other ancillary material. So, just put it out there. What do you think? What do you think about it? Also, we have to say hi to our new patrons this week.
Hooray!
Yay! We have got this week Ryan B. and Margaret Sessa Hawkins. Welcome to both of you. Thank you so, so much for pledging. for supporting us. It means everything to us. And if you would like to support us as well, you can go to patreon.com/unspoiled. Lots of back episodes, lots of patrons only content, lots of goodies. And depending at what tier you subscribe, you get a postcard, 2 additional episodes a month of Unsober, which had previously been just me and Rashawn, but now I'm doing 1 a month with Rashawn and 1 a month with one of my other co-hosts because I wanted to mix it up a little bit. And you can also just go to patreon.com/unspoiled and follow us for free. And that way you get news updates about any changes that there are to the posting schedule, recording, special events, all things like that. So go there, do that, and support us, and just keep an eye on our space, because maybe you don't want to become a patron now, but there'll be something that'll catch your fancy a little bit later that you'll want to throw us those bucks for. So, but just keep in mind, guys, $5 for the content with no ads, because that's like the main draw. There's also the Suki Stackhouse series included in that. And what's $5 these days? $5 isn't even going to get you like a Big Mac, is it? I actually don't know that. I just said that. I know that it isn't. I don't think that $5 is getting you like a grande latte at Starbucks anymore. I'm pretty sure that's like $5.50 at this point. But so what I'm saying is $5, you're just buying me and Rashawn. You're not even buying us coffees, plural. You're buying us a coffee to share, which is fine. We like sharing. It's fine.
We do.
But buy us a coffee, and just think of it that way. As just like a little, hey, thanks for doing work that I like, that I look forward to every week, that I wait to be posted with eagerness because I enjoy it and get a little laugh out of it. And also enjoy mocking you because you are very wrong about things. Either because you're unspoiled and don't know, in Rashawn's case, or because you have a damaged brain from probably long COVID, in my case. So yeah. Anyway, what's that?
I said that's bleak.
You just got to call it like you call it. All right, everybody. Thank you all again so much. We love you. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.